video off if you'd prefer not to be in that recording. So, and to avoid any disruptions during the reading, we're also just going to ask everyone to remain on mute, and we will just be muting folks if we notice any background noise. Want to make sure that we can proceed smoothly. So sorry if that happened abruptly before we mentioned it, but thanks all for understanding. You all know how this goes, I think, by this point. As you can see, we've got ASL interpretation, or as you know, we have ASL interpretation going. We also have CART captioning going on right now, so you can enable subtitles in the Zoom settings. If you are not familiar with how to do that, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask. And also I can provide a link to it in the chat. It may also just be showing up automatically for folks, in which case, fantastic. Yeah, just thanks again to Kat and Jamika and Brooke for being our access team today. We will share the chat, the public chat afterwards, and I'll be pasting a couple of useful keyboard shortcuts / notes in there in a little bit. So everyone knows we're not planning on taking live questions tonight. So just want to make sure that folks are aware of that, but don't hesitate to pop questions in the chat. If we don't get to them tonight, then we can always bring them in later. And I think I currently accidentally have that sound noise on with the chime. So let me see if I can get rid of that. I always forget how to get rid of that. Sorry about that, folks. Where is that again? Chime. There we go. Okay, that should make this a little bit better. Okay. So let me go ahead and paste some of these shortcuts in the chat quickly for everyone. Find that these have been helpful in the past and just want to make sure I continue to provide them. And don't hesitate to message me if you got questions. So I think that's it for the technical details. So just thanks everyone again for being here. I want to extend a warm welcome on behalf of Senior and Disability Action and the book reading series crew. Like I said, I work with SDA, and for those of you who don't know, SDA is the sort of the backer of this disability book reading series. We organize with seniors, people with disabilities, chronic illnesses, mental health conditions in the Bay Area on local issues, as well as around some state and federal level work. We're fighting for justice in housing, healthcare, transit, and more recently around the digital divide. If you're interested in joining SDA, learning more, I'm going to pop some links in the chat. It's our website, sdaction.org/get-involved and info@sdaction.org. Of course, we'll also follow up with that after the fact. And I think with that, we're ready to get this show on the road. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator for the evening. Let me pull up the spotlight here, and I'm going to remove my spotlight. And welcome Tongo Eisen-Martin, everyone. Tongo was born in San Francisco and earned his master's at Columbia University. He's the author of Someone's Dead Already and Heaven is All Goodbyes, which were both nominated for and received a bunch of awards. Tongo is also an educator and organizer whose work centers on issues of mass incarceration, extrajudicial killings of Black people, and human rights. He's taught at detention centers around the country and at the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. He lives in San Francisco and has been the San Francisco Poet Laureate since 2021 and is our MC for the evening. So welcome, Tongo. Thanks so much.
Much love and appreciation. Societies wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back. Like it's a Brinks, I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is the dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. You know, they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria. From the loyalty oath of their grave superstitions, loyalty oath of their agrarian reform, I return to my mother completely disrespected. For peeling the heat off of purgatory, they kill poets like me. Walk me away from my poems, never to be heard from again. In this foul industrial complex of bloodlines picked over, picked through, a sport and spiritual death of your devil at least half made. Police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump change your chump to be mocked even with a gun in your car. A cubit of needlework spelled tune for the proletariat, the relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond dine. Just another service day in the theatrics of tea house fascism, in a bouquet of surveillance cameras, in the poverty of God, new blue eyes, corpses of water, newly potted presidency, or one big shiny coin if you ask at animated capitalism and other non-literal voids. Killing is white freedom. The deification of hyphens, medicine bread and picture shows, great protesters in LA, guests of our Inc., drop kicking roses in the graveyard, DC Mink like a stone torn in half, the pen advances, despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures, a metaphorical but not surreal day in a horn-ridden life horn player improvising king. Like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweeps the land of racism, now return to the ground. Now make progress with the gun. Our mother Emmanuel, they put on music that evening. A swinging type body language for you to drink with fermented $5 bills for your body language, some applause. My past stomach lining, neither a good thing nor a bad thing, like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. It'll sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading youth who surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Poly thought floating in the cup of water, she saved me. Accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynched. Coat sleeves, wooden avalanche into the wrist. Our mother Emmanuel, avalanche into the sharp keys. Pain, the deal you make with pain. The piano makes sense for them. Laying hands on the world gradually. Addressing the bending necks on the streets of the north. Travelers sailing in pain, repeating pain in the north. 10 trigger fingers on that piano if harmony would have me. Putting 100 fights on every direction offered her. Lady Day, leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying, lay your plan out on this lightning. Make your poems a corner pocket of men. I've greeted the blues itself. America may clean my dead body, but will never include me. There goes the poet. Killing without killing. Never mind this painting of your language. Now be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing. Good and dead by the afternoon. Welcome again, everyone. You're in for a treat. This brother here. Well, I'm telling everybody right now. Get your tissues. I don't think there's been a time where this brother has not put a tear on my eye in the course of a reading, and I'm so honored to be with him, and also honored to be able to ask him some questions and see if we can pick his mind a little bit. But let me give you the Oxford Dictionary introduction of this brother. Lateef McLeod is building his career as a writer and a scholar. He has earned a BA in English from UC Berkeley and an MFA in creative writing from Mills College. He is a fifth-year graduate student in the Anthropology and Social Change doctoral program at California Institute for Integral Studies in San Francisco. He published his first poetry book entitled A Declaration of a Body of Love in 2010, chronicling his life as a Black man with a disability. He also published another poetry book entitled Whispers of Crip Love, Shouts of Crip Revolution in 2020. He currently is writing a novel tentatively entitled The Third Eye is Crime. He was in the 2007 and 2016 annual theater performances of Sins Invalid, and also in their Artist in Residence program in 2011 entitled Residence Alien. In 2019, he started a podcast entitled Black Disabled Men Talk with co-host Leroy Moore. Shout out to Leroy, also a good friend of mine. I digress, pardon the footnote. Keith Jones and Otis Smith. The podcast website is blackdisabledmentalk.com, all one word. More of his writings are available on his website, Lateef McLeod, one word.com, and his Huffington Post blog, huffpost.com/author/Lateef-McLeod. Again, before I can't say enough, man. Just he's Lateef is one of our special ones, man. And so we're all blessed to have you. Welcome, brother.
Ooh. Hello, I am Lateef McLeod. For an image description of myself, I am a Black man with cerebral palsy with a beard and a mustache. I am wearing a gray and black button-up shirt. I am in a Permobile power wheelchair. I would like to thank SIF for inviting me to read some of my poems from my second poetry book, Whispers of Crip Love, Shouts of Crip Revolution. The poems that I selected this evening cover social justice issues such as racism, ableism, settled colonialism, and at the end, some love poems at the end. I write my poems with the intention of a search for justice in the subjects that I write about. I hope that by listening to these poems elicit from you similar questions of how to obtain justice in these particular situations. The poems I will read this evening are as follows. So much, I am too pretty for some ugly laws. Why are you scared of me? The American Empire, Father Madiba shook my hand. The children, dreams of her. Your love is my harbor, and a smile for strange fruit. I hope you enjoy my poetry. This first poem is entitled So Much. It is about the fragility of the Black body. Hope you enjoy. So much. I hear their painful cries jut up from cracks on the street. The block is a scorching frying pan, frying my brothers on the pavement. Our bodies are etched on the concrete, blood drenched as permanent ink. Chalk should not outline our deathbed, or a body bag be our first casket. Bullets lurch out of guns, slice the air, and pierce the thin borders of our Black skin. Eat away at our muscle and bones, burrow through sinews and blood vessels until it reaches and stops our hearts. It is not just the gang member on the corner, whose aim we have to dodge, but also police on the beat, whose itchy trigger fingers leave us with our brain matter splattered on the concrete. Now we have to watch out for the neighborhood watchman, the winnipeg cops who think we are foreign to our own neighborhood. Trayvon had a hoodie on to protect him from the rain, but it didn't protect him from the bullet from Zimmerman's gun. Old George just couldn't help being a deadly Don Quixote and shoot at every Black boy, claiming he was a hardened criminal. My cocoa skin is not a target for your gun. It is the sacred encasing of God's masterpiece that gives warmth and joy to every loved one it touches. No bullet will destroy what God has made immortal. We will all rise again one day to walk under the sun. This poem, I Am Too Pretty for Some Ugly Laws, is inspired by the book Ugly Laws by Susan Schweig. The book describes how in the 19th century, American cities had laws on the books that barred people with disabilities from being viewed in public streets. I am too pretty for some ugly laws. I am not supposed to be here, in this body here, speaking to you. But mere presence of erratic moving limbs and drooling smile used to be scrubbed off the public pavement. Ugly laws used to be on many U.S. cities' law books, beginning in Chicago in 1867, stating that any person who is diseased, maimed, mutilated, or in any way deformed, so as to be an unsightly or disgusting object, or an improper person to be allowed in or on the streets, highways, thoroughfares, or public places in the city, shall not therein or thereon expose himself to public view under the penalty of $1 for each offense. Any person who looked like me was deemed disgusting and was locked away from the eyes of the upstanding citizens. I am too pretty for some ugly laws, too smooth to be shut in, too smart and eclectic for any box you put me in. My swagger is too bold to be swept up in these public streets. You can stare at me all you want. No cop will bust in my head and carry me away to an institution. No doctor will diagnose me a helpless invalid with an incurable disease. No angry mob with clubs and torches will try to run me out of town. Whatever you do, my roots are rigid, like 100-year-old tree. I will stay right here to glare at your ugly face too. Now I will read my signature poem, Why Are You Scared of Me? Why are you scared of me? As a child, I knew I was good, adorable, and safe. Because that was what my parents told me. That was what my grandma told me. That was what my physical therapist told me. That was what my teachers told me. So I believed it. I rolled around in my power wheelchair with my head held high and knew I was God's child, blessed with promise. But the vision that I had of myself was not always reflected back in the eyes of others. From an early age, people used to stare at me and bore their eyes in the back of my skull like I was some freak, some monster whose face is too grotesque to look at. I grew up with kids who got that, my gangly limbs squirming in my chair with an unease that never went away. The kids' taunts taught lessons of how I was out of place in their space. Malicious words sprung off their tongues and crashed into my eardrums along with their hate and indifference. Why you fear me? Why you freak out whenever I am around? What is it about the sight of me that makes you cringe? Is it because when you look at me, you see a reminder of your own fragility? The fact that one day your body will go weak and die decomposing into dust? Or do you fear me for my skin? The smooth maroon and encasing of my body, illicit fears that I might kick you, hit you, roll over you in my wheelchair. Am I that nappy-headed criminal that makes you clutch your purse as you walk past me? Do you secretly wish that a police officer will come and bust in my head and take me to jail, or better yet, put a bullet in my heart to stop the enraged monster you see me as? Or do you see me as a freak, a monster whose body medicine cannot fix, whose body cannot be loved, cannot be sexually desired, cannot provide a woman with her physical, emotional, spiritual, and sexual needs? Why does a woman emasculate me with her gaze? Do you see my body as only acceptable if rehabilitated? If I am working on a surgical or therapeutic way to fix me, then you will embrace me with open arms, because then I will be just like you. That may look like a happy ending to you, but you will never know why you are really scared of me. In this time of war, it is good to remember that America is still the biggest imperial nation in the world. That is why I will read the poem, The American Empire. The American Empire. The American Empire is not your friend. It is not sweet apple pie, smiling, big buxom blondes, and non-stop football and baseball games. It is not democracy, freedom, Christian, the supreme example of culture to the world. The American Empire does not care for you or about you, only cares about your 1% overlords. The ones that stick a foot on the back of your neck and then slams it deep into a pile of shit until the shit wafts up your nose and overwhelms you. You taste the shit and then puke the shit until you cannot help but swallow the shit and liking the shit. The American Empire is your pimp. It has you on your capitalist track since your first paycheck. It taught you how to produce from your broken body for its benefit. You thank it when it rips you from your wife and child to suck your soul clean as you wallow in some office cubicle. It puts my crippled body on the track, too. Just gives me less money than you, because it cannot manipulate my body as well as it does yours. Cannot make me the narrow-nosed, pale-skinned, straight-haired man who can walk and talk normally, who it can put in the front reception desk when the guests come to visit. Defectives like me must be dealt with. The American Empire used to lock me up with a hospital gown and leather restraints. No one cared if I shitted myself as long as my stench was under lock and key, away from the main public's noses. I am not as useful as you. Your body looks good for some nice army fatigues. With some physical training, it could send you to Afghanistan with a gun in your hand and a hateful song in your heart. You can be an integral part to stomp and break other proud and brown bodies to the power of its will. The American empire is not our friend. It will break us down, bone by bone, muscle by muscle, until nothing is left. I was so proud when I met President Nelson Mandela as a child when he was released from prison. I wrote a poem about it called Father Madiba Shook My Hand. Father Madiba shook my hand. He shook my hand, and as a 9-year-old boy, my immature mind couldn't fathom the rough surfaces that scraped and scabbed the hand I touched. This hand that held the knowledge of law books as sledgehammers that slammed against the Great Wall of Apartheid. This hand that embraced and guided the African National Congress to express in words what was on their people's hearts. Their desire for freedom and self-determination from unjust white domination. This hand that was handcuffed for lashing out against the brutal state. This hand that was made to break limestone in an effort to break his spirit to no avail. Because this hand was still strong and firm when he grasped my hand after 27 years of holding cold metal prison bars. I shook the hand that crumbled the remnant of apartheid and then molded from his country's earth a democracy that all his people could thrive and prosper in. I shook the hand of the man, honored and admired worldwide. Now as he rests in peace, I feel honored and blessed that he chose to shake mine. In this time of war, we need to remember the apartheid situation in Palestine. So I will read my poem, The Children. The children. The news lies to you, telling you that it cares for children makes you care for certain children. The babies that sweat and suffocate in locked parked cars we mourn. However, if the babies are exploded, pieces of their bodies splayed all over the Gaza Street by an Israeli missile, then they are just collateral damage in the way of Israeli destruction.
Of Hamas Hawkeye missiles.
The news tells you that the death of these children are necessary. Necessary to protect the Israeli children. The news tells you that the bombs falling from Israeli jets that blow to pieces mothers, nursing their babes on their breast, are to keep Israeli mothers safe in their gated communities. They tell you that every man shot, beaten, and killed on the Gazan asphalt is one less terrorist that rain rockets on the innocent Israeli citizens. You quickly turn the channel, shaking your head, and wonder out loud if Israeli and Palestinians can ever get along, totally oblivious to the fact that You just witnessed apartheid and genocide in HD. On the other channel, you see children in school buses. Children in school buses with prison bars. Children in school buses with prison bars going to a detention center. Children in school buses with prison bars going to a detention center, while virulent Tea Partiers yell racist slurs at them. Children fleeing violence in their home country due to American imperialist policies. Yet still do nothing. Redneck Americans harass these vulnerable young humans as they are kicked out of the country. The news tells you that these children are illegal. The news tells you that these children have diseases. The news tells you that these children do not belong here. But if vulnerable children cannot capture a sanctuary in this country, then the question is, who can? If after watching this you are at a loss of action and think you can't do anything to make a difference in these children's life, that is where you are wrong, because you can still save your empathy by turning the lights of the TV news off and get out in the street in a protest for love. Now I will read the love poems, Dreams of Her, and Your Love is My Harbor. Dreams of her. She will it on the top of clouds. Her toes will barely touch the airy mist. She exudes beauty to shine in a crowd. Our bodies will vibrate with love every kiss. Her intelligence vibes perfect with mine. She always knows what to say to please me. Whether we stay home or go out to dine, our love will be clear for people to see. We pray to enter into each other's lives, and God formed us as two halves of one love. The object of envy of men and wives, grace will float down on us like a white dove. So let me keep her safe in my strong arms, and I promise I will keep her from harm. Your love is my harbor. Your love is my harbor. The incessant gnawing in my sleep, these ideas fly around in my head, biting my brain, tearing my gray, more logical flesh. I scream in agony in the night, and have only your arms around me as comfort. Your hands caress and soothe my body, urging me to sleep as I lie beside you. You cradle my heart and prevent it from ripping out of my chest. As the endless horror flick of my memories plays with my mind on an endless loop, you are there to regulate my breath, inhale the pain I exhale. As I try to breathe after my torment, to awake and see your face is like to see a peaceful shore after being tossed and turned in a violent, tumultuous hurricane. You will always be my harbor after the storm. This last poem is dedicated to Troy Davis, who was unjustly executed by the state of Georgia. I meant to include it in this second book, but somehow it was left out. A smile for strange fruit. Was it his big, dark head that drooped on his prison garb chest that gave you comfort? Or was it his once firm hands, which swayed weightlessly from dangling arms, that put a grin on your face? Was it the way he apologized for the loss your father, brother, son, but still proclaimed his innocence, still looked you in your eye and said, I am not the one? But still you smiled as they strapped him on the table and stuck that needle of death in his vein. Was it the fact that other people believed him, like those pesky protesters outside the prison and the Pope and the NAACP president and thousands of people worldwide who wanted to halt this process, make sure you had the right guy? Was it the fact that this process had been halted 3 or 4 times before? Most of the witnesses recanted their story, and the two didn't, well, one is dead, and the other may be the one who shot your family member. But this does not faze you. You know you got the right guy. So what if all the evidence against him is shaky at best? You got the whole Georgia police force behind you. This will set precedent. You cannot let one of them shoot a police officer. It is bad policy. Much like when one of them stole a head 70 years ago. A tree will soon have a strange hanging fruit. People will cry out for justice, especially in his family, because they too lost a father, brother, son. But you will still smile, for you know justice will be like it should be in the good old South. Ugh. Those are all my poems. Hope. Yo.
Please, everybody, show more love to Lateef McLeod. Let's blow up the chat, you know. Let's throw up our gang signs and, you know. Thank you, brother, man. You never, you never let us down, man. Never let me down. Now I have, the community provided us with some questions, you know. So are you ready to get into it, my brother?
Yeah.
Got you. Question 1, you know, Feel free to shout me out, bro. Who are some of your favorite poets? Get it right, brother.
And what advice would you give young disabled artists and creators who in? Some of the writers that inspire me are Jude Jordan, Sayer Hamid, El Mazabinator, and Leroy Moore, and Tongo.
Hey.
Eisen.
Oh.
Martin, and Tongo Eisen-Martin. What is the next
Next question.
question?
The next inquiring mind wanted to know, how do you create a book?
Well, for the publication of this book, I contacted Poetic Matrix, and they agreed to publish my book. It is about connection, connections, really.
Mhm.
Once you write the book, it is some politics to get the book published. It is about connections. Really, once you write the book, it is some politics to get the book published. Next question. Next question.
How can we come together as Black artists, and how can the larger Black artist community work with Black disabled artists more?
Well, we have to be intentional about doing projects with each other and know each other better. I would like to ask you the same question. Tongo. Because I would like your insight on this / I would like to ask you the same question, Tongo, because I would like your insight on this /
Sorry, I was muted. And now I have returned. So what I was saying was, answering out of an anxiety over the neo-Confederate tendency that is consolidating power, you know, as evidenced by the, you know, the extrajudicial killing of Black people being perpetuated by both cop and citizen. You know, Lateef knows that I actually myself my family was just roughed up a little bit, or a lot in St. Paul, Minnesota. A white supremacist murdered my baby cousin, stabbed him in the chest with a metal pipe he had sharpened into a spear for parking in front of his house. We see there was another white supremacist father-son team that murdered a Black motorcyclist in North Carolina. Another father-son white supremacist team almost murdered like a FedEx driver, a brother who was just delivering packages or something somewhere in Mississippi, tried to really chase down his truck and shoot at him. January 6th in the Capitol, right? And this global neo-fascism that is also organizing and arming and training itself aggressively through various like global backdrops. It all, I think, should intensify our complete efforts to heal as a people, to organize as a people. And so I think one answer to, you know, cooperations of Black artists is the tether to overall political movement. I feel if we, you know, if we do a more intentional job of putting together, you know, political organizations really intent on reabsorbing our powers, our social powers, our political powers, our power to determine reality, producing and reproducing art through those structures, I think will be, you know, is the healthy is the healthy path forward. Beautifully, our efforts also being the kind of vanguard of resolving internal contradictions that we do have along, you know, along various lines. And I think, you know, the disabled Black artists especially, as our mutual brother Leroy would point out, you know what I mean? All of the, you know, just you know, that you haven't seen the front line of oppression until you've seen a cop, you know, assault Black disabled person, you know. And so, you know, both as, you know, again, or you know, I just, in a way, it's time, to like like time is, I mean, time is running out at such a pace. You know, there's no such thing as any Black progress that doesn't involve the resolutions of these internal social contradictions. And you know, and again, I would say that this specific contradiction is you know, is almost the most instructive. So that'd be my kind of like broad, my broad plea, and how it can play. I think it plays out just like Lateef said, and you know, just like you said, man, in the intensity of our collaborations, you know. So you know, it's the spirit. It's the spirit of unity, and it's the, you know, the spirit of praxis. That will almost, you know, that again, just, you know, everything is riding on, not just the groovy life of a Black artist, you know.
I agree.
Right on, man.
Brother, I think as artists and as Black artists are in a position where we must educate the community, and that and I think education around ableism and disability politics is very necessary as at this juncture. I agree, brother. I think we as artists and as Black artists are in a position where we must educate the community. And I think education around ableism and disability politics is very necessary at this juncture.
Right. That emphasis on education, man. Yeah, that's crucial. An education that we facilitate ourselves and don't require any institutions, you know, putting together our own learning circles, man, crucial.
Definitely, we need to organize and educate our own. And show the right examples. Definitely, we need to organize and educate our own and show the right examples. What is the next question? What is the next question?
Another inquiring mind wanted to know, how do you mix poetry into your PhD studies?
Oh.
I haven't figured out that yet, Leroy, but I am trying to fit it in. I will let you know if I succeeded. Sometimes academic, academia can't be poetic. Sometimes academia can't be poetic. Any thoughts on this Tongo? Any thoughts on this Tongo? You are on mute.
It just keeps, it's just again and again. How do I keep muting myself? I don't know. I promise that's not a Freudian finger, you know what I mean? Maybe you shouldn't be talking. I found in many ways, like craft, or at least my craft relies heavily on, you know, non-poetic work, or I found that it's kind of like it's all the work you do before you pick up the poetry pen that that really does the heavy lifting for you. So in a way, it kind of without having to come up with a fancy equation, or without having to come up with a fancy equation of routine, both kind of an academic praxis and a poetry habit kind of just you can just let them kind of naturally reinforce each other and intermingle. It is I think what's a challenge, and really I think a challenge for a lot of kind of like of efforts that take place. I don't want to say like in the ivory towers, but to kind of like in general, there's a challenge to kind of to decompartmentalize your life, and academia is no different type of it has no different challenge. I was not recently, of course, because of the pandemic, but kind of before that, I was I was at Harvard for like a week. There's groovy people at the Woodbury Poetry Room, man. Real good people over there. They have this huge like archive collection, audio files, records, and I got to hang out for a week, and it was beautiful. But as I was walking to and from the Woodbury Poetry Room, I couldn't help but look around and say, like, what is the Ivy League obsolete? Like, is this fantasy of education actually sustainable at this point in history, as far as where we need to go? This kind of the way that the bourgeoisie kind of fortifies itself in our imaginations by creating these little never lands, is actually a mighty, is a mighty tool of our own oppression. We get to we get to thinking, right? We get to thinking that reality should not be determined by us, where we are, because we get the feeling that reality is determined by them and their various never lands. I put Washington D.C. I put the capital in that. If you notice these magical buildings. But I would be, this is something I would still, I'd be severe sometimes, but with us, I'd be gentle about it. I wouldn't want anybody to, you don't have to agitate yourself trying to figure out too much how to make the revolutionary most out of your, or the artist most out of your academic experience. I think, again, the tether is just, your political praxis, your overall political praxis is just like making sure that at all times you are part of some effort to unify us, to help develop us, and then kind of just let processes work themselves out. If that makes sense.
I totally agree.
Right on.
Yes. But I think my pursuit of education will serve the people and my community. Right, I totally agree, yes. I think my pursuit of education will serve the people in my community.
How have you
Hopefully.
I'm sorry. How have you been feeling there? Like how's it, you know, how's the day in, day out?
Long and hard.
Mm.
Brother. But I am going to get through it. Long and hard, brother, but I am going to get through it.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
Yes, we actually have more than a few, brother. Where do you like to read poetry?
I mostly read poetry in my house. However, it would be cool to read poetry outside at a park or library.
Right on.
Next question. Next question.
What additional pieces of writing are you working on, and when are you hoping to publish them?
Right now, I am writing a dissertation, hopefully finishing by year's end, a novel that I hopefully finish by next year, and an AAC barrier book project that I should be finished with by the end of the month.
Right on.
Next question. Next question.
What advice would you give young disabled artists and creators who need some encouragement making their work public?
Maybe for young disabled artists, they can start small by going to an open mic or publishing work in a magazine. See if you have a good reception.
Mm-hmm.
And go from there and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is good to build your confidence as an artist. Would you agree? I think it is good to build your confidence as an artist. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, you know, you make the road by walking it. Just really, you know, just take it one piece at a time, one open mic at a time, and you just let it have you let it have its life. Man, I've spent I've spent many moons in the middle of nowhere, you know, and some I miss those days, man. You know, I miss the middle of nowhere days. You know, the kitchen table audiences. You know what I mean?
They have open mics in some weird places.
For real.
Brother, they have open mics in some weird places, brother.
Man, you ain't lying, man. You know now too, man, people can take advantage too. All this online open mics, man. You could really, you know, you could probably go to an open mic every day if you just look up whatever's in, you know, pick a region, you know. There's probably still open mic, online open mics going on right now. You know what
Yeah.
I used to bother people. I still bother people. I'll just call somebody up and read one of my poems. You know what I mean? You gotta do what you gotta do. You know.
That is cool. That is cool. What is the next question?
Where do you get your ideas? What is your writing process like? And they want more advice, brother. What advice do you have for writers?
I get ideas from living life, basically. I like to write poems in one setting, but sometimes it does not happen that way. My advice for writers is to keep it in and don't give up. How about you? What is your writing process like? How about you? What is your writing process like?
But I took a big, like, I took a big leap in craft by accident. Uh, uh, I got my hands on a secondhand conversation in which a fiction writer roasted a poet who brought up poetry must, write a poem a day, and the fiction writer was like, what, a poem a day? No, you need to write hours a day. And so I took that, kind of, I heard that anecdote, and I just started putting a timer on. I was actually speaking of like out the way places. I was in Jackson, Mississippi, doing some organizing work at the time. It didn't have a lot of a kind of like a poet's outlet, and so I was just put a clock on, put a timer on, 2 hours, and the very first session, I wrote this poem, and actually I really dug it. It got me really, excited. I was really inspired as I was writing it. It was beautiful. And when it was done, I looked down at the clock, and only 15 minutes had passed. You know what I mean? I said, what am I gonna do now for 1 hour and 45 minutes? And from that dejection came a kind of like a realization that a lot of lucidity of craft, a lot of you can, grow and teach yourself what poetry is when you actually take euphoria out of the paradigm, right? When it's, when you take that, when you take catharsis out of the paradigm, when you're just dealing with yourself, dealing with your ideas, dealing with the page, second for second, as soberly as possible. Actually, all kind of exciting things actually and energized writing comes out, or words that carry the energy themselves without me trying to impose a mood onto them, actually comes out on the back end. And so I'd say my process is really just like, it's just one of learning, of just always being open to learn, to always looking for a new way of dealing with myself in a given session, right? How to find a little bit of insight as I'm bored, how to find a little insight as I'm frustrated, how to find a little insight as I'm sleepy, how to find some genuine insight when I am kind of elevated a little bit. So just like, just a kind of just that kind of almost just a writing as internal cultivation is my main orientation to craft. You can really just like, if you really just keep a critical conversation going with yourself as to what poetry is, why of all the, we've been here talking for however amount of time. Why was the poem only in that 20-minute set you did? Why was that the poetry and this other communicating we've been doing not, right? Looking at your poem, why is this line kind of vibrating and this line is not? All and on and on and on and on. If you just converse with yourself about these things, you know, you just get to groovier and groovier investigations. But back to the beginning, I'd say just write. I know some people say don't or don't be so hard on it, or I don't know. I humbly submit, if you write every day, you'll be okay. You know what I mean? It just, if you can't do 2 hours, do an hour. But you know, you want to put yourself out in the deep, like in the deep end, the deep end of the mood pool. You know, so if you don't have time, you don't have time. But just a time a little bit beyond what you think you can handle, and see what happens when you play there. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That is great advice, brother. Yes, definitely. That is great advice, brother.
Right on. We have one more
Aye.
question. I know we run out of time.
Go.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Got you. Last but not least, how do you construct your poems so that words on the page fit your voice? Do you write differently for poems to be read aloud and poems to be read silently?
It is all my voice. So it comes out the same. I just try to be authentic to myself and what I am wearing. Writing, it is all my voice, so it comes out the same. I just try to be authentic to myself and what I am writing. That is it. That is it.
Right on. Well, man, you know, more please, more love, everybody, for Lateef McLeod. You know, I think who introduced us? Was it Joy? Joy Align, another
Yes.
beautiful writer. Yeah, man, and shout out to Joy as well. You know what I mean? Man, you really, you know, you're really like there in put it like this. There's this book called the Healers by this Ghanaian author novelist named Aikwe Arma, and the book is a beautiful you know, allegory of all kinds of, you know, just all kind of lessons for those of us who would dedicate ourselves to liberation and to, you know, and to the well-being of people in general, you know. I mean, or you could think about liberation as just well-being for real. But within it, there's a character who's a general who has this idea on how to kick the Europeans out, right? And you know, but without, you know, everybody just check out the book, and I won't ruin the story. But he had a title. He was so kind of like strong and beloved that they called him, his title, his official title was the soul of the army. That's what he was called. And man, you're the soul of our army, man. You know, it's an honor to know you and make art alongside you, man. So, you know, thanks for letting me take this walk with you today. And again, much love to everybody for tapping in with us this evening.
You, man, for hosting and emceeing Tongo. Yes, thank you, man, for hosting and emceeing Tongo.
So we turning it back over to Peter.
Yeah, and gosh, this is about the time when my words feel pretty inadequate. But wow, thank you so much, Lateef and Tongo, holding this space. Just deep gratitude and really beautiful space tonight. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more and continuing to read along, and hopefully more of these. Yeah, so some wrap up stuff for folks, because we got to get to this raffle, because someone's got to win this book, right? We gotta put it out there. I want to just quickly let everyone know that, you know, these readings happen a bit sporadically, but if you want to be at the next one, we'll make sure to email everyone who signed up on the email list. And I'm going to put a link where you can follow us on Eventbrite in the chat as well. And of course, you know, that'll be in the email as well. And then, of course, this is all part of the broader work that we're doing to organize, to build collective power together. And so folks who are interested in that work, here's a link to get involved with SDA, to join us, to ask us more about what we're doing, right? And to see if this is something that you're about. So there's an email in the chat. And a link too, if you're interested in just going ahead and joining, become a member, getting involved. Okay, now for that moment everyone's been waiting for, or you know, I don't know if this is the moment, but it's another nice moment. The raffle. Now I got to tell everyone, this is a little bit of a backdoor raffle, but it works every time, and someone gets a book every time. So everyone who's eligible is everyone who's here right now is eligible. We've got this. Let me just get this going. All right, so if you are here right now, you are entered into the raffle, and the way it works is we do a breakout room. We just create some random breakout rooms, and in the third room, the third person is going to get this book, and you're going to get your choice of any of Lateef's books. And also, of course, we'll be sending out the links to get Lateef's books, Tongo's books, after the fact in a wrap-up email, as well as the recording once we can in the chat and all that. So drum roll, please. Let me get that little drum roll going. Here we go. Here we go. All right, the third person in the third room is Beverly McLeod. Hello, Beverly. Congratulations. Are you related to Lateef, and do you already have all the books? We can figure it out. We'll figure it out, because you can always gift it on to someone. So Beverly, congratulations. I will follow up with you. If you registered for the event, then we have your email. Is that correct? I'll ask you on mute. Okay, good. Yeah, we got you. We got your email then if you registered. Fantastic. I'll connect with you. We'll figure it out. If you already got all the books, then we'll get that book to someone. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm just gonna, this is a nice moment. We always have the mute on during the reading to make sure it goes smoothly, but I just let everyone unmute themselves now. So please,
Thank you very much. I've
Thank you,
never
thank you,
won
thank you.
anything.
Hey.
So
Thank you.
it's wonderful to win a book. Yeah, I already have
That is
Lateef's
my
book.
mom.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
That is my mom.
So she might
Okay.
have a copy. She
So
might
I'll have a copy, so maybe you could try someone else.
Oh, okay.
But thank you. So I have broken my non-winning streak.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm happy that could be your raffle prize. You're saying we should raffle it, try one more time?
Yes.
I'm down. All right, let's just get it going right now.
Thank
All
you.
right. Oh, of course. All right. So this time we're gonna redo that raffle, and it's gonna be the fourth person in room 2. All right, let's see what happens here. Recreate, assign automatically. Fourth person in room 2 is Cheryl Strimple. Congratulations, Cheryl. Hello. Cheryl will follow up with you if you want to unmute and say anything right now. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted.
Yeah, of course. This is a fun little bit. All right, so Cheryl, we'll follow up with you, and just so much gratitude, Tongo, Lateef, Kat, Jamaica, Brooke, everyone who made tonight happen, Bisma, Rin, Kristen, and Ruby, all the book reading team, just intense gratitude and appreciation for tonight and for this space, and everyone who is here. Thank you all so much.
You.
A big thank you to Peter and SDA.
Right on. Yeah.
Peter
Thanks, Peter.
and
Thanks, SDA. All right.
SDA. Thank you, Peter and SDA.
Much love, everybody.
Thanks, Tonga.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Love to all.